Welcome to the Money Business Podcast. I'm your host, Neal Regino. I'm here with Drew Zimmerman of Zimmerman Watch Repair.
What's up, Neal?
How are you today, buddy?
Doing well. Yourself?
Pretty good. Drew and I go way back. Some people might even say we're almost like we're related. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. So, Drew, why don't you tell the audience about your company, what you guys do, and how you got into it?
All right. I'm the owner of Zimmerman Watch Repair. We're a watch repair facility out of York, Pennsylvania. Let's see. The company started back in 2010, but it was really just Drew Zimmerman. That's what I used and I had an EIN number that I got. So basically, I was a 1099 essentially for different jewelry stores and doing trade work. And then Emily, my wife, was also a watchmaker I graduated with from the Lidditz Watch Technicum. She was working down in Florida. I got too much work, so I invited her back up to Pennsylvania, where her family was from. She came up, and then we kind of started this whole Zimmerman Watch Repair LLC. And I think that was in 2014. So as the LLC, we're on our 11th year now. Yeah.
And what made you get into watchmaking to begin with?
Ooh. So I kind of grew up with it. I'm a third-generation watchmaker, so my grandfather got it from the GI Bill. He went to William Thacker School in Pittsburgh. And then my father was a watchmaker, graduate from the Bowman School in Lancaster in '79. So it was in the blood already, but the watch industry was really unusual in the late 90s and early 2000s. No one knew where it was going. High-end watches were kind of a thing. People were wondering if they were going to be a thing in the past. They made it through the quartz crisis in the 70s when the battery watch came out. So they were still lingering around, but then 2005 to 2010, things really started to pick up with high-end mechanical watches again, and it became a little bit more of a status symbol. People really like how these things are built. It's just more of a luxury status at this point, more so than a timekeeping aspect of it. And everyone was already having pocket watches, cell phones in their pockets, so it's kind of an obsolete thing, but it's like the men's jewelry. While ladies also wear them, and they can also be a jewelry statement for the girl, it was like the only thing the guy wears besides his wedding band, typically.
Yeah.
So we saw that the industry was changing. My father actually pushed me out of the industry when I was a junior or senior in high school. He didn't know if it was going to be a viable career. He struggled with it in the aspects of he really had to grind almost my entire life growing up with him. He was working days and nights with this watch repair. So he didn't quite know if this was going to be a viable solution or a good career for me. So he kind of pushed me away to try different things. I went down the avenue of working in a garage with body work and cars. Fast and Furious #1 came out when I was 14.
Obviously.
It's the worst thing that could have happened because I invested way too much money into a 96 Honda Civic. And yeah, found out that is not what I want to do. I liked working on my own projects, but
you like living your life a little bit farther than a quarter mile at a time?
I live my life a quarter mile at a time. Nothing else matters.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what got me into watches. So I went to 2 different schools, graduated, took 3 years, got all my diplomas, and yeah.
Well, I definitely want to know more about the watch side, but before we do, tell me about the progression from what your father and grandfather were doing to how you broke off and started your own thing.
They're different.
Yeah.
So the watchmaking drastically changed. Everyone had a mechanical watch back in the 50s and 60s. So when my grandfather was there was easily 50 watchmakers based out of York, PA, which has back then, I couldn't tell you the population. Today we're at 600,000. So maybe there might have been 100,000, 200,000 back then. They had just a boatload of watchmakers, but everyone had a mechanical watch, and this is how you showed up to work on time. You needed it. You knew that's how you knew when your break time was. So back then, it was a pure necessity that watchmakers were needed, and it was a highly respected craft. And then when my father graduated in '79, quartz watches came out. So watchmakers were much less prevalent. I believe when my father graduated, there was 25 watchmakers. So in York, PA, 25 jewelry stores. About half of them had watchmakers. So realistically, that 10 to 15 watchmakers. But he had to grind so hard. I remember, and it was the coolest thing. He showed me his price list. Just to give you a ballpark average for like a nice high-end watch today, it's going to be like a service is going to be around $1,000, give or take. Can be a couple hundred less or a couple hundred more, but that's normally around what a service costs, and you get your watch serviced every 10 years. Back then, when my father graduated, watches weren't mechanical watches that were still being fixed up from the guys that were in their 50s and 60s that still wanted to wear a mechanical watch, they didn't have good gaskets, so they had to be serviced about every 2 to 3 years. My father's price list was $10 for an overhaul back then, and it's something that we now charge right around 1,000 for that same service. Now, inflation and everything has something to play in that, but the fact still remains: you had to service 15 watches in one day to be able to keep the lights on in the jewelry store, and that wasn't like frivolous vacations or saving for retirement. It was just to you had to do
Just the overhead.
you just had to do it to keep your overhead and keep some food on the some food on the plates for your family. So it went from more of a where me and my wife, we both still grind out in the business. It's a little bit more rewarding because we get to take more time on these watches, dedicate more time to them. Where back then you just had to crank out the work, and quality would sometimes have to obviously decline because you had to produce so much more work.
Now I got to see the progression, which has been really nice. Not only the two of you working together from the beginning, but working from the basement to then remodel it, or well, working out of the jewelry store to then the basement, remodeling the basement, then opening up your own shop, which is a beautiful building that you guys are have put together. It's an amazing space. Let's talk about what you actually service. So, can you talk about? Are you able to talk about the brands or no?
Yeah, we can lightly talk about the brands we service. We are pretty confidential with that stuff.
Oh, then we don't have to do it. Let's talk. Let's.
No. We can mention the four brands. We do four. We only do four brands. We used to do a lot of vintage and specialize in almost everything. But then 2014-ish came around, and we're like, let's focus and specialize on one specific product. That being our four brands that we do. So we have spare parts accounts with, and we have a good relationship with Rolex, Tudor, Omega, which is part of the Swatch Group brand. And then we're the official service center for Moser watches based out of Switzerland. That came together about 4 years ago, and that's kind of like our very special baby that we really take care of. So we're the official service center for them, and they make some uber high-end watches. So it's kind of like your dream job as a watchmaker student to be able to work on some of these crazy complications.
Great. Well, I mean, I get to see it in action, fortunately, and it's a beautiful thing what you guys do. I don't know anything about watches except for what I hear from you guys, and anytime I have somebody that's talking about them, I'm like, you got to talk to my cousin. I don't know what you're talking about, but
and it's always a phone call, typically at 2 a.m. on a Friday night. And I get a call from you and and whatever friend you're with, or
usually client, friend, whoever. And I guess I just dropped the ball saying you are my cousin. Technically, Emily's my cousin. You're married to her, we are family. So let's talk about it from an investment standpoint because obviously we will talk more about the business and that side, but I want to actually talk about it as an alternative investment. How do you actually see the watch industry? Where do you actually, I've had clients that have come to you and have said, hey, I want this watch. And you'll actually tell them, you're going to pay this price. And you're probably not going to make your money back anytime soon if you want to sell it. So what actually makes it a good investment? How do you actually price when to buy? How do you know when to hold? Maybe even talk about some of the cool ones that you have in your in your inventory. So.
I wish I had answers to all that. I don't. As we discussed this heavily yesterday, ironically in the workshop with another watchmaker that works for us, about watches as an investment piece. And we said the word investment, and he shouted out, "Don't call them an investment." And it's kind of true, but it's at the same point, it's your money. Do with it what you want. Yep. So we look at watches as maybe not the safest investment. It's not going to give you your biggest ROI when you look at like different strategies that you could invest with your money. But the cool thing about watches is you get to wear it every day and appreciate it, where you can't really do that with like a Roth IRA. So it's cool. You get to see that piece of mail come when you see that little number going up with your Roth. But with a watch, you buy something. If you buy the right one, it can go up in value depending on what the economy is like. But you really get to appreciate it. You get to wear that every day, and it becomes a part of your life, essentially. Mm-hmm. So with watches as an investment, we don't like to call it that, but there are certain ones from a watchmaker standpoint, from a watch collector standpoint, that you're going to have a bigger ORI than you would with other brands. The ones that everyone knows is Rolex, typically is going to be your biggest bang for your buck, that you're going to be able to recoup the most amount of money that you spend on that watch or potentially make money. When choosing the right one, A lot of people want to add gold to it, and they think gold's going to be the biggest selling point down the road when they buy a watch, but it's actually the opposite. The hot ones right now that everybody wants are the stainless steel or something super unique. So when we think of a stainless steel watch, it's the Submariner, the GMT, the Explorer 2s. It's the ones that are typically that our previous generation really admired. Those guys, James Bond, Steve McQueen. I mean, these are the guys that wore these watches. They were tool watches back when they had them. They wore them in the movies and all the Bonds. So typically the baby boomer generation is the one who kind of started this watch collecting fad, and they saw these watches from their favorite celebrities growing up in these movies. So they were like, "Ah, I want to mimic what James Bond wore." So they went out and they bought a lot of these. And those watches that were shown in the videos weren't mass-produced watches. They might be only made 100,000, 200,000 of them. So they're actually highly collectible pieces when you think about how many people out there that actually want the watch that was worn in that movie. So the stainless steel Submariner sport watches, tool watches from the 60s and 70s are probably going to be the hottest ones forever that are going to keep on growing. Now, there's always trends within every market. So the biggest thing that happened that blew the watchmaking industry out of proportion was the COVID times and watch collecting. Everyone was sitting at home. No one had anything to do. They had as much spare time, and they had all this money sitting in their bank, and they just wanted to spend it on something. They couldn't go take their vacations that summer, or for 2 summers. So what they did was they went online and started buying watches from high-end auction sites like Sotheby's, Christie's, Phillips. eBay was a big marketplace during COVID. And the watches we would see, they would bring 5 times what they bring today. It was this short 6 to 8 month period where watches, no one could see any end in sight to what these were going for. It was absolutely insane. We priced out a bunch of watches because everybody was coming to us saying, "Hey, can you get me this watch?" Just to give you an example, you could buy a watch, if you were able to buy a Rolex Daytona at a Rolex dealer. That watch would have costed you 14,500. If you were to walk out of that dealer, the very same day, you could get a check from almost anywhere for 52,000. So it was all about what is out there, what can you get your hands on, and how good of a relationship do you have with that jeweler. So if you have a good spending history with that jeweler, while that watch might not be out in a showcase, let's say you buy diamond rings, diamond necklaces, Christmas gifts for all the family from this place. They might go in the back, pull one out of the safe, and be able to get you one of those, even during these COVID times, where maybe someone that doesn't have that spending power would be able to have that same opportunity to do. So we saw this during COVID, and the vintage market went equally just as crazy. Watches that typically would have brought 200,000, like a normal stainless steel Paul Newman, were easily fetching 6 to 800,000. It was through the roof. Things settled a lot down since COVID. We're back to kind of where we were pre-COVID days, but there are absolutely certain hot watches that you can still go out, buy brand new from these Rolex jewelers, and be able to sell them and still make a couple grand easily on a watch and that same day.
Are there features on a watch that might make it worth more? Like, for instance, like a coin. You know, if there's
Yeah,
a discrepancy in the way it was printed,
it's no different.
So if is it even like with the bezel used to be made by a certain material, now it's made with a different one? Does that make it more desirable to somebody who's collecting in certain instances?
It does. And there's still small productions that are being put out there where they might put a little, like there's this one Daytona where they just put the most tiniest little bit of red print at like, I think it's the 140 miles per hour marker. And just by putting that little red print, that watch will easily fetch a premium compared to one that does not have that red print. So they do, all the companies will still do small production runs of certain specific models, and you can get your hands on one of those. These little these like little tiny details will really make a difference when you go to sell it.
Well, I'll tell you, with my clients, I'd say when it comes to things outside of the market investments that they talk about, it's usually your Bitcoin, your gold, cars, and then I'd say watches come up in that top maybe 4 or 5 of things that they're talking about. So I think the one question that everybody wants to know is what's the most expensive watch you've worked on? And are you willing to share anything fun in your own collection?
Yeah. Most expensive watch that I've worked on was 1.2 million. So that was a very nerve-wracking watch to work on. Now today, that watch was maybe about 10 years ago that I serviced that one. Today, typically, that was a really unique case, by the way. That was a vintage Rolex. Today, a $400 to $500,000 watch is not something unheard of to come through the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the watches, what we work on now is a much higher end of new product. The ones that we serviced specifically for Moser, and they just make some really expensive but super cool watches. So in regards to my own collection, I liquidated a lot of it.
Yeah.
But I missed that COVID times. I really wish I would have sold it then. I didn't have this whole plan with this whole farm, and yeah, so we just sold one watch, and that bought a nice little 5-acre property beside us that we're going to be turning into a Mario Kart go-kart track that you will be racing on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of the sacrifices of being a business owner. Do you take some of your assets now to build that foundation to launch you into a exponential trajectory, or do you play it safe? And I think you've done a really great job, and you're at a pivotal moment right now in your business to really get a jump started. So it makes sense where you're at right now, what you're doing. So if anybody wanted to either get in touch with you, get something serviced, you want to give them social media, website, whatever, how do they get in touch with you guys?
So we took a lot of the stuff down. We had a website, and we took it down after 30 days. It got way too much traction. We have 2 clerical people, and we still can't keep up. So we keep it super minimal.
Okay.
Instagram is how you get a hold of us now. That's really the only way. It's at Zimmerman Watch Repair. And yeah, you message us on there. We'll give you the email. We make it a little bit difficult and hard to find, but we kind of need that to
right now.
Yeah, to keep some of.
Well, we'll talk about that on the next podcast about maybe ways to fix that. So,
Cool.
well, appreciate your time as always, and I'll see you in a couple minutes.
Sounds good, bud.